the Selectmen's meeting, June 15th, 2020, to order at 6:01 p.m. Please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. A moment of silence. I'll ask Mr. Holt to lead us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we go on the agenda, gentlemen, I'll read in our paragraph. Until further notice, to keep our members and staff safe and to comply with RSA 91-A, the state of emergency and governor's orders, restrictions on public gatherings. The town of Alton is moving from in-person meetings to remote audio participation meetings. To remotely attend the meeting, audio only, visit our website, www.alton.nh.gov, for telephone access, remote access instructions listed under news announcements on the home page. For telephone, the Selectmen's office, 603-875-2113 or 603-875-0229. Between the hours 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The dial-in code, meeting ID for each Selectmen's meeting. There continues to be no public input at this time. If you wish to have something read into the record, please call the Selectmen's office at 603-875-2113 or 603-875-0229, or email the Selectmen at selectmen@alton.nh.gov, or mail a letter to the Board of Selectmen at P.O. Box 659, Alton, New Hampshire, 03809. Comments and questions and concerns will be read at the next available meeting and answered at the meeting or the next available meeting. This time, gentlemen, I'll ask for approval of the agenda as submitted unless somebody has additions. Mr. Rochelle.
Yes, I'd like to add this evening either an old business or new business, Alton Bay Town Beach.
Beach, let's put it underneath new business, number 8.
Park?
No.
Anything else? All right, so at that point, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended.
Second. I have a second by Mr. Whitman. Any further discussion? All those in favor, I'll poll the board. Mr. McDonald? Yes. Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Vote is in the affirmative. Announcements. Anybody here tonight? Submission of public comments, questions, concerns. We do have 3 in there, gentlemen. Mr. Conrad, Nan Newton, and one other person that came in today. Before I respond to these, I'm requesting that we send these up to the town attorney along with the notice from Ms. Mitchell, what she sent over earlier with the pamphlet, and then what she is resubmitting. We respond to this next week after we hear from our legal counsel.
What is it? It's on the, what, is that the one on the water bill?
All 3 are on the water bill, yes. One, there's a letter threatening a lawsuit. So I'd like to send all this up to the town attorney to make sure we were correct with our actions, which I feel we do. We were. But one of the individuals has threatened a lawsuit. I feel at that point it should go to legal counsel for him first and see if we were within our rights, what we did, which I feel we do. We were. That's all I need is a consensus to the board.
Can we get a written
response from the town?
Response from him on the billing and everything?
Yes, sir. If that's what you'd like.
Not on just the water shut off, but on billing and
turning it on and everything.
Yeah. We're still covered.
I'd like to take this to poll the board for, yes, Mr. Holt?
Just have one concern. I just want to make sure that he gets a copy of the bill that was sent to the people.
Yes, sir.
Town attorney.
Well, we'll send the letter to the town, the letter that went.
I see what he's saying too, because of what we.
But the wording in the letter.
Unfortunately, the billing on the bill should have stayed from May 15th to October 15th, not April 15th. That was a clerical error. But fortunately, I still think overall we were right in our decision. Yes. But I'd like to hear back from the town attorney, especially where one of the customers threatened a lawsuit.
Liz, can we make sure that the attorney knows that summer water is billed quarterly, not by what they use?
No, it's billed by flat rate.
Flat rate, I mean.
Flat rate, not by what they use.
To make sure we tell the lawyer that he's not billed.
Because
quality
they
like
can use as much water as they want or as little as they want,
Right.
it's still a flat fee. So I'll just poll the board for the consensus of that, Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. All right, gentlemen, thank you. So we will pass on the submission of public comments, which will be read next week in the meeting, and the response from the legal counsel. Moving on to new business, special event application for East Alton Fire Association. As you can see in there is the annual 4th of July. They have a little parade from one end of the neighborhood to the next end of the neighborhood. There's all the department heads in there that submitted, they have no problems with it as long as they promote their social distancing. At least that's what I got on all the departments.
Most of this, I mean, it ain't a big gathering, it's more or less the parade going down Roberts Cove.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them view it just from their own yard.
Driveway.
Their own driveways.
And the emergency management team, Mr. Chairman, doesn't seem to have a problem
No.
with it either.
Make a motion, we approve the special event application for Roberts East Alton.
I'll second that.
Motion made to approve the special event application for East Alton 4th of July parade. Second by Mr. Holt. Any discussion? I'll poll the board at this point then. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. Moving on to fire department, security window installation, central fire station. In the packet, you'll see that the fire chief has submitted a request. We put a window in, change the entrance a little bit so they can take folks from the doorway without having to let them in. So, do we have the fire chief online? Okay. Chief, good evening.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Wonderful, sir. And yourself?
Oh, not bad. So during the coronavirus pandemic and the state of emergency, we ended up closing the door at the fire station to just stop traffic from coming in. Part of that, we realized that this was actually a big step in our own security. But the other part of it is we have lost the face-to-face contact with our community. We're doing business over the phone and through email. So what we're proposing is where the secretary's office and the foyer kind of meet, they share a wall, is putting in a security window with a drawer to pass papers back and forth. You will see a spec sheet that I have put together to have you guys go through so we can work on getting either quotes or bids to get this through.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions for the chief?
Chief, is that foyer heated?
It is. We may have to put an electric heater in with it, but for the most part, it stays pretty warm in the wintertime, and I imagine it's going to stay even warmer with the window there.
Chief, this is Paul LaRochelle.
Yep.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So you're proposing just to cut in the window itself, nothing to be reconstructed in the wall or a wall being removed. You're just cutting in an opening for a window, a drawer, an electric. Am I correct?
Yeah, basically just take some blocks out of the wall, make sure it's reinforced so the wall stays up, put the window in, and then either a drawer or a cutout through the window for passing through of paperwork. A drawer seems to have a little bit more security to it than just an open hole, especially for those times when the secretary's not in the office, like weekends, nights, and her lunch break.
Is this a manual drawer that just pushes open and not electric?
Yeah, it would be manual, run from the secretary's office.
Okay.
You gentlemen are aware, we are discussing this with all the town departments right now where the public has access to protect all employees from any, as the chief put in his letter, from droplets that might be spread when talking one person to another. It's more of a safety issue for the health and well-being of our employees, also for the customers that come through the windows. Mr. McDonald.
Now, will this be billed to emergency management
It's a very
for
good,
its safety?
it's a possibility it could be done, but chief, could you answer that one better?
So hopefully we're gonna get FEMA to help reimburse. The police chief, emergency management director, believes we have a good shot at that. Where this is just a little bit more than just a privacy window, we may only be able to get partial reimbursement. And we have the Building Capital Reserve Fund, which is where I was planning on getting the money from in the first place. And then if we get reimbursed, reimbursing that fund.
Well, I don't do that.
What's that, sir?
If he gets a check for it, it has to go through general fund.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you'll take care of that.
I'll take care of that.
Any other questions for the chief, gentlemen? Mr. Holt?
Chief Bob Holt,
Yeah.
you said you were gonna go out and get quotes.
So I am not a builder or contractor by any means. I believe this is going to be under $5,000, but over $2,500, which would put us into the 3 quotes. And sometimes it's just quicker to go out and pull those quotes rather than putting it out to bid and waiting for responses.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, but you are gonna go out and get quotes.
The most expensive part's gonna be
Yeah.
cutting the concrete.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think you're gonna go over 3,000.
right. I didn't believe so, but again, I'm not a contractor.
Appreciate that honesty, chief.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not a paramedic either.
Right.
All right, gentlemen, any other questions for the fire chief? I have a motion to approve his request.
I make a motion that we allow the fire chief to get the quotes to install a security window at the central fire station.
I second.
Motion made by Mr. McDonald to approve the request from the fire chief to install a security window at the fire station, seconded by Mr. LaRochelle. Any,
To get the quote.
to get the
To
quote?
get quotes.
Get quotes.
Get the quote, excuse me. Second by Mr. LaRochelle. Is there any further discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. LaRochelle?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Vote in the affirmative. Thank you, chief. Have a lovely night.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.
Grounds and Maintenance Department deck extensions for HVAC units. Do we have Kelly on the phone? Kelly, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
So I'm going to start off, the gentleman you see in your packet with the parts, grounds maintenance, wanting to do with the air conditionings out front. We've talked about it for a few years, at least getting some lattice up around it, staining the deck, staining the post to preserve the wood. Now, along with this is a request to put a roof over the air conditioning too. So at this time, Kelly, I'm going to let you take over, explain everything to them, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. I was given a work order to complete several items at the town hall, and one of the items was installing a lattice work around the exterior HVAC units. And the directions were that it must be several feet out for air circulation, and also there needed to be a door for access for repair and maintenance, and also a locked door. So the grounds and maintenance staff had come up with an estimate and a plan, just starting with the first idea that came forward was extending the current deck 2 feet out. That would be 2 feet towards the roadside, and that decking structure would allow for more space. And then a wooden lattice enclosure with a left side door would be erected. And then the idea was to put a metal roof on top because there was concern about the snow load coming down onto this unit and being enclosed. So that was the idea that was presented.
Now, Kelly, do you think it's worth putting a couple sonotubes 2 feet in front of that and just framing with the lattice and leaving the front of that so they can walk down the front of them units? And just put the lattice work on post?
In the plan, it did call for 3 cinder blocks to be in front of that decking to put in those posts that you're talking about. We thought that if we went with the current deck without extending it out, that the roof wouldn't be pitched properly and it wouldn't have enough support.
Well, that's what I mean. If you put 3 sonotubes across the front there and then come
Yeah,
up
that's
with
in the
post.
plan.
Cool.
Well, it wasn't sonotubes, it was in the plan, but that there were concrete blocks, but it certainly can be sonotubes for the.
Well, problem you got with blocks is that roof's gonna move with the frost. It's gonna lift the
Right,
post up and down.
Right, that was That's why the plan came forward to the selectmen, so that you could look it over with your experience and say, why don't you do this instead? But those blocks were for the 4x4 posts to support the extension for the roof weight.
You see what I'm saying, Paul? Just put the sonotubes in and leave that deck like it is instead of decking it out 2 feet.
I'm confused. I went and looked at it today. Is this framing material for holding floor?
Yeah, to frame the floor out 2 feet to support the roof instead of just.
I understand that. That's an awful lot of material in 2 feet. Doesn't make any sense. Who put all this together?
Her crew did down at the, building and grounds.
There's enough material there to do 2 decks.
So
It's
maybe.
the decking and the,
Go ahead, Kelly.
sorry, it was the decking, frame, it's the frame for the lattice, and then the roof support as well. They're broken down per item, so on.
No, I see the roof is separate, Kelly.
You might have to go.
Okay.
One at a time, one at a time.
I think you gotta go with more than a 2x8 on that roof with the snow that comes off this building.
Well, Kelly, my question to you is it gonna block the windows of the town clerk's office, go halfway up the window or all the way to the top of the windows for that room?
There was concern that the roof would be blocking the windows, yes. At least halfway, if not all the way up. Depends on what the pitch will be.
So could we go to the top of the window and leave the lattice work on bottom to hide the units and leave the top of it open?
That's a suggestion. I think that the workers in the office probably would like to have their window not obstructed, but.
Right. Well, I have a suggestion. I'm gonna volunteer, Mr. Rochelle, maybe take a look at this over the next 2 weeks.
Sign it up.
Maybe come back with a material list, maybe meet with your guys, if he has the time. If he doesn't, maybe we can meet with Mr. Roberts and Mr. Devers out there instead. Just go over, maybe draw a sketch of what it will possibly look like, but somebody that has constructed such a different units in their lives, maybe Mr. Rochelle might be willing to talk with your gentleman from the park, building and grounds maintenance, maybe how they were gonna, this was gonna be construed. Would that be adequate?
It would be. There was a schematic that was drawn, that was 3 pages, that was submitted.
Okay, I did not have that.
I don't know that.
Okay.
So, I don't know if Mr. Rochelle will be willing to volunteer after I kind of ask him to volunteer.
I don't mind talking to them and talking to John. I do have another question. Now, to clarify, the units were installed approximately 5 years ago, correct? Kelly?
I think about that, or 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Has there been an issue with any ice or anything coming off the main roof onto those units as of yet?
Not that I know of. There is concern from our staff that said the way those units operate is they need the airflow and the circulation, and if it is boxed in, that may be less efficient, and if the units are heating up, it may be hard to get cool air in there.
Right.
So that was just a concern, is maybe the roof is not a good idea. This was just
I don't think the roof
what
is
they were asked
necessary.
to put.
Plus, you can't flash it properly against the wall. It's blocking the windows. It can't be flashed up against very well, unless it's freestanding and has a separation between the wall and the roof itself. You're gonna have to cut out the mortar in between, flash it in. I don't know if that's necessary.
Well, gentlemen, maybe at this point, we could table this for, Paul, what do you think the timeline you would need? Because you're busy too. 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Give me a week to talk to John and talk with Kelly and them, and go down and take a look at it.
So why don't we table this for at least 2 weeks? So Kelly, does that sound fine with you? We table this for 2 weeks?
Sure, whatever you would like to do, we're happy to do.
All right, I appreciate the work on this that you guys did. We'll take a look at it. Mr. Rochelle will be in touch with you and Mr. Devers to set up a time
Okay.
possibly through. And we'll table this for 2 weeks. Thank you for your time tonight.
Okay,
Have a good evening.
thank you. Thank you too. Bye.
Hey, gentlemen, we will be tabling number 3 for 2 weeks. We're going to move on to the Highway Department, which is quite a handful tonight. Do we have Mr. Roberts on the phone? Mr. Roberts?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Good, glad to have you. So we're gonna start with you. B, Highway Department 2009 International Field Dump Truck Rebuild. Gentlemen, I just have a packet from Mr. Roberts. Bill on this truck. Unfortunately, it had issues last week. Let's review all this. We just got it tonight. Yeah. So, Mr. Roberts, I'm gonna let you go ahead and start talking about this. And then we'll go from there.
Okay. We've taken a couple of views of this, and one of the biggest views is what's the worst case scenario if we sent it into a Cummings shop to have it redone. Fingers crossed, it's just the lower bearings, and they have to drop out the main bearings, the crankshaft and all that, and rebuild it up. But they won't know if any of the pistons are damaged or anything until they get that entire thing apart and on the ground. So to present to you something that's worst case scenario, what we did, we went to Cummings, because it is a Cummings engine, and we went to International too, but we only got the 2 quotes back from Cummings. And the only difference between the quotes, a few dollars, but between Scarborough, Maine and Concord is the taxes for the state of Maine. Other than that, they're basically the same thing, approximately $37,000. It's really expensive, and if the selectmen decided to go this way, we'd have to push it off in capital improvements. It was actually designed to be replaced next year. Unfortunately, this did happen. It is a major plow truck. Replacement of this might take some time because, as we know, it takes almost 6 months plus if we ordered it last month. We may see it sometime next year if we go that route. Currently, the vehicle has 132,000 miles on it, but it's also 12,720 hours. Now, we just talked about the excavator and recommendations from CAT because of high running engines. They're talking 8,000 to 10,000 hours for a rebuild. Now, I'm not going to say that with a Cummings, but it's interesting to see where the hours are and trade-in values and everything of this. We did call, we called late this afternoon and got a number from International. I mean, it's worth between $7,000 and $10,000 as is what he had given us, and without actually looking at it, they don't know. So that's kind of where we're at. We're not sure which direction the Board of Selectmen would like to go in with this. If we fund it and do it, there is an emergency maintenance account that is a capital reserve item, but that will only cover about $27,000 of it. The rest would probably have to come from vehicle maintenance, which is there's approximately $47,000 left in the operating budget. So I guess
Well,
that's...
The other question for you. Is this the truck that also has the tweaked frame?
Right. This is the one this is the first 10-wheeler we bought, and they rolled it in the first 5 weeks, and it went out.
Second question, how's the body of the truck?
Body's good. It's all fiberglass. I mean, there is some rust because it's a double frame. We don't order double frames. We went through this thing. We learn every year. We don't order double frame trucks anymore because they rust between the double frame, and you can't do anything with them. I mean, we fluid film everything now. There is some minor issues with the truck. Nothing that we can't stretch out for another 3 to 5 years if we decide to repair it, or we can let it go. It really, the mechanic is like one way or the other. He's not sure.
My next question, if we did not fix this, and let's say it was ready to go in, to be traded or sold or bid out, what do you believe the value of that truck would have been before the engine went?
It would have been about $20,000 for trade-in.
My next question is going to be, and I'll let the other gentleman talk after this. If we were to say no, you have 2 other 10-wheelers right now in the fleet, correct?
Yes, we do.
All right. With those, and I know this wheeler goes out to East Alton, I believe, does Hayes Road, Drew Hill Road, and all of that, correct?
Yep, that's where that truck does run. And just to reinforce a little bit of where you might be going with this is that we do have a trade-in that's sitting here where we were going to bid out, and that's the old number 6. So we still have a truck in the fleet that could cover a portion of that, not as quickly, but it could cover it.
Well, the only reason I'm asking, possibly you feel the value might be $20,000. We're looking at putting $37,000 possible 1,000 back into the truck, get 3 to 5 years out of it. That's basically $10,000 to $7,000 a year it's gonna cost us with other repairs down the road. And I'm just wondering where it is up for replacement this year in the capital equipment. Would it be more better for our investment for the taxpayers is to take our losses, keep the trade-in the other truck that we're gonna get rid of, keep that, get us through the winter, go ahead and wait till next year, either the capital improvement or the new 10-wheeler next year. I just don't wanna see putting good money after bad money, that's all. So I'm gonna stop there, so I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. McDonald now.
Kenny,
Let him ask.
Kenny, if we put the $40,000 into it, can we get the 5 years out of it?
No guarantees, 3 to 5, that's all the mechanic said, 3 to 5. Because it is an older truck and it's definitely dragging along. And to reinforce what Ruben was just saying, I've been through all the numbers I can, and if my calculations are correct, after the next couple of discussions we have that are coming up tonight, there'll be about $180,000 left in the equipment capital reserve, and my suggestion to the board would be order the chassis at this time. We may get it in early, but we can always bid out after March town meeting just the equipment, and that truck would be back on the road in the middle of the summer rather than waiting till next fall.
Virgil, anything else?
No,
Mr. Whitman?
about using the other truck for one thing. I think that makes kind of sense.
And truck number 6 is, how much older?
Oh, it's the old Mac. It's the last Mac I have. That's the one we just traded. Well, we put it out for trade-in with the 6-wheeler we just bought. That should be, the chassis is supposed to be here next month. And then we just awarded the Viking plow bid package.
Can it handle it for this winter, you think?
Yeah, the mechanic, we talked to about it earlier. We were running it back and forth, and we'd say, yeah, we could probably keep it together and get it through the winter. And at least it would put a big truck and a plow unit on that route. It may not be the 10-wheeler. It may take him a little bit longer, and the other guys are going to probably have to help out with some of the bigger trucks, because he does have one of the largest routes in the town, so, but we could make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Bolt?
Yes, Ken, without seeing a condition report on that truck, other than what you just said, there could be a lot more wrong with that truck.
Agreed.
And I have to agree with the chairman, I can't see spending that kind of money, not for 1 year or 3 years or whatever. If you can make that old truck work for this winter, plus you do have some money for contract out plowing, worst comes to worst, I say we take that route. Next year, we'll trade that truck in, whatever we can get for it.
Oh,
Kenny, would you say it spun a bearing?
Yeah, it spun the main bearing, but without dropping all that out, we can't figure out if it was the cause that spun the bearing is something to do with the pistons or not. Without taking all of that and dropping it out, we brought Nash and Warren in. They worked one night on it here and dropped it, and then they found the bearing. The parts of the bearing were seized up. They were heated right up, and you could tell that's where it all started from. But we don't know if it was up in the pistons that did it, that made it seize to begin with, or we just don't know.
More than likely, it's up in the connecting rod up in there.
so I think, and even listening to you, Ken, you think the best approach to this is take our losses, keep the other Mac, go through the winter of it. If that truck has one of the biggest routes, the 10-wheelers, if possible, you can swap one of the other 10-wheelers out and put the Mac on the other side.
No, we'll just extend the routes to overlap onto him to see what he can't get done, and then we'll just extend onto it to help him out. But again, the only thing I would suggest, if that's the route we're going to take, just to expedite this, would be, he says the trade-in value on it as it sits is between $7,000 and $10,000. To go ahead and do that, and just try to get the chassis itself in before March town meeting. So all we have to do is bid out the equipment.
Gentlemen, what is your pleasure? You heard the report, you've seen it, we've all discussed the kind of about. What is the pleasure of the board?
I think we ought to, not do the repairs, because it's too much of a gamble, spend that kind of money and have something else go wrong shortly afterwards, and not knowing exactly what is gonna entail the repair itself. I think we ought to go with the number 6 older Mac, and that this year, and trade that in later.
Right, also, Mr. Roberts said there'd be about $180,000 left after the other piece up tonight. Is it also the board's pleasure to have them build the specs for the new truck, get the specs to the board before we go out to bid?
Might be $1,000. Don't need to prank. Pop a discount for the.
But that day, they already,
Took it apart and found the barrel.
yeah. Well, if the barrel's anything like he said it is, that's crankshaft time.
It's metal
I
filings.
mean, there's no end to this. You're gonna have to go through that motor altogether.
What's the pleasure of the board?
We ought to go with number 6 for the winter.
Well, let's go with the truck rebuild, yea and nay. I need a motion, deny the request for 2009 International 10-wheel dump truck rebuild. Made by Reuben Wentworth to deny the request of 2009 10-wheel dump rebuild, second by Mr. Hall. Further discussion. Full board, Mr. Wood.
Yes.
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 Got votes in the affirmative. Now, while we're on this subject though, do you request that Mr. Roberts goes out and puts the bid specifications for the new equipment for chassis, cab and chassis only? We can get it going, so after town meeting, hopefully that'd be approved, that we can outfit it in the spring, so we have the truck back for road reconstruction.
Yeah, yes, send the specs in, right?
Yes, just bring the bid specs into us to approve.
When would we be spending the money? This fiscal
We
year?
would be ordering it this year.
It's in the capital reserve account.
I understand that.
Mr. Roberts, that would have to be paid for this year, correct?
No, we're paid upon delivery. I don't know if the delivery would be this year. I don't know how
Paid
fast
upon
they could build.
So it could be next year if it's paid for.
Right, and we could say we want the delivery in March of next year. We can very well say that, or February, just long as we know an idea of when we want it in, then we could put the specs out for the equipment and have those approved, so right after town meeting, we can go right to bid for that as well, for the equipment.
What are we gonna do with the old Mac then?
Then that would go out to bid,
If we go up to bid this,
Itself?
then it goes to general fund.
that money goes to the general fund. Any other questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to allow Mr. Roberts to get the bid specifications, cab and chassis,
Don't move, Mr.
made by Reuben Wentworth, to go ahead and allow the town highway agent to go ahead and get the bid specification for build on a 2020 or 2021 10-wheeler cab and chassis only. Second by Mr. Holt. Any further discussion?
Kenny, we're gonna check the state, bids too, see if they got any leftovers on there.
Yeah, we've already called him. We're waiting for an answer. We called Jim down at International, see what they have,
Okay.
because they have the international bid, so, for the state. So they're looking across the country and see if there is anything available.
Okay, any other discussion? Full board, Mr. Holt.
Yes.
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 Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. We'll move on to your next one. Highway Department recommended tree bid specification, road reconstruction, number 5. on Range Road, gentlemen?
Going?
I don't believe this is a road we're redoing this year. I believe he's getting it prepped for next year. Is that correct, Mr. Roberts?
No, we'll be doing it very shortly.
Oh, they'll be doing it very shortly. I stand
Our speed is, I guess I could run a quick update if you would allow me to, so you know where I'm at.
Yes, sir, it'd be nice.
Okay, so we know we got a Hayes Road paved. We paved Valley Road. The only thing left over there is shoulders, top coat on next year. We just finished the dig that we had to do on Tom Road, so that's ready for gravel and finish grade. But I think GMI, we're trying to hold off on Linwood. The last thing we got on Linwood is we have about 250 feet of pipe to lay. We should have that done by Thursday, and then they'll finish grinding it and then try to coordinate the paving for those two roads. So without having into the surveys for anything else, the next road on the list would be Range Road and Homestead Place. So we've already put out the public notices. We've got almost all the brush cut on it. So the next thing to do is put out a 2-week bid on cutting the trees, which is, it's quite extensive because it's been closed in for so many years. So we're actually getting ready, probably guess Monday, moving into Range Road and start pulling the rocks out of the road.
So I guess my next question is, I didn't realize Range Road was on your list. I thought it was down the road. How is the Highway Road Reconstruction Fund holding out at this point? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't have a breakdown on that, but I can make sure you'll have it for your next meeting.
That would be fabulous if we could.
Yep.
The gentleman, he's asking for this to go out to bid for Range Road. Questions on his question? Mr. Holt?
I went over the bid list. It seems pretty good. How about a time completion? That
Unfortunately, we can't set those depending on the schedules. You know, we've been very lucky. The people that have been taking the bid has done a very excellent job, came in very quickly and did the work. We're hoping that we can keep that rapport going. Hopefully he'll be pretty much the low bidder and we can keep on with that company, because he kind of drops everything and comes right in and does it for us.
Well, the reason I asked that question, Kenny, is on some of your previous bids, you had the time completion. But that's okay.
Right.
If you're happy with them being able to do it in a timely manner.
Yes, and that would be one of the questions we'll ask the companies once they bid on it. We'll have to wait and see who bids on it and then talk to them about how quick they can get it in to do it, because that's going to mean a lot to us too. It's not always money, it's the speed in which they can come in and get the job done.
Any other discussions from Mr. Roberts on the tree bid specifications? If there is none, I will entertain a motion to recommend the tree bid specifications for road reconstruction for Range Road. So moved. Made by Reuben Wentworth to recommend the tree bid specifications for Range Road by Mr. Whitman. Any further discussion? Hold the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald? Yes. Wentworth, yes. Vote is in the affirmative. All right, Mr. Roberts, moving right along, we're going to go on to number 6, recommend 1-ton bid specifications. Let you discuss this if you'd like, and then I'll let the board do it with you.
Okay, without going over the whole thing, this is the 1-ton that was approved last year at town meeting and approved by the board to get ready to put out the bid. What we've been trying to do, and the reason we've held off so long on this one, because we're trying to get under the fleet program through Dodge, which would be a considerable discount, and we've just got an answer from Dodge that they have a possibility of having a couple in the country that they can draw from. So if we can get this out to bid, we're hoping to be in the fleet program. Just to mention back, the last truck we bought from Dodge was the pickup truck for the highway agent, was the white truck that you see running around. I paid $29,000 for that, and that came off the lot from a $42,000 number. So under the fleet program, we get one big discount. So that's why we've held off so long. That's about
Any
it.
questions or concerns on the bid specification Mr. Roberts wants truck for the highway department? Donna, you don't, Mr. Whitman, Mr. Rochelle.
No, I don't think
Mr.
so.
Holt.
I always have a question.
I figured that.
Surprise.
I noticed on your specs, really no spec for the dump body, other than just a dump body and hoist top system.
Yeah, most of those are electrical. They're pretty standard. There's no PTO system within the vehicle.
Yeah, but I'm talking, size of the dump body, sideboards, headboards.
They're just pretty standard. I've never thought of breaking it down any further than what we've already received.
All right.
But when the bid specs come in, they'll have that broken down for you, correct?
They should have, and I'll be happy to make sure they have it broken down when they come in to go to the board for award.
That would be nice, Ken, just to know, you know what type of body it is or whose body it is.
Right.
Mr. McDonald.
Kenny, I see in here you got bench seat, it's not heated.
I did that once, Virgil. I probably won't do it again.
Tim,
Yes, Mr. Holt.
do you put a sander in that, Denny?
Yeah, we're gonna keep the poly sander we have, and the poly sander goes in, and that's the only salt truck that we do have.
That's electric?
Yes.
That's an electric sander?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. We've had so many issues with motors. We don't do motors anymore.
Well, no, I just wonder about hydraulics. You don't have this truck set up at all with any kind of hydraulics.
No, and just to let you know, when we looked into that, because it's so tight under the hood now, to set a truck up with hydraulics is almost $9,000. And it's just elaborate, because they don't leave any room for anything. So there's just so much work to put hydraulics in a truck that small.
Roberts, the 1 ton that we have now, what will be the disposition of that after this is awarded, new one comes in?
When the new one comes in, my suggestion to the board is, I think we outright sell it. We do not use it as a trade-in. And the reason we don't use it as a trade-in, because these trade-ins are ridiculous as far as what they're giving you for them. And I think we can get a lot more, even though it doesn't go back to capital reserve. It goes to general fund, but I think the town benefits in the long run.
Nothing that one of the other departments can't use, such as Parks and Rec, buildings and grounds? Or is it
As a
general for
secondary truck, I'd have to talk to the mechanic and see what he thinks. I know they just put ball joints in the front of it. They had it up on the lift today, so.
Is that the worst truck we got for the 1 tons? Or is there one worse?
A worse 1 ton around?
Yeah, is that the worst truck we got down there in the fleet?
No, the old cemetery truck that we use for transportation that actually Parks and Recs has borrowed, for the summertime, and we get it back in the winter. It's just a transportation truck. That's probably the worst truck we got floating around.
Maybe we ought to think about keeping the 1 ton and get rid of the worst one now and keep the run done and run it.
Why don't we cross that bridge when we get to it, when the new one
Yep.
comes in, how's that?
Because for what we get in trade-in, we're better off to keep them.
No, trade-ins aren't worth nothing.
No, but we might as well keep it and run it right to the ground.
So, gentlemen, what's your pleasure to approve the bid specs, Mr. Roberts, on the 1 ton bid specification?
I'll move.
Yeah. Motion made by Reuben Wentworth to approve the bid specification, 1 ton bid specification, second by Mr. Rochelle. Any further discussion? I'll follow the board. Mr. Whitman.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Vote is, Mr. Wentworth, vote is affirmative. Motion passes. Number 7, Highway Department recommended 1 ton truck plow package bid specification. Gentlemen, I'm not going to talk anymore about this. I don't think Mr. Roberts has to, because it is his spec. We have it all there, so I'm going to ask you if you have any questions on the plow truck package that he wants to put out to bid.
Where's the specs? What Fisher plow?
Says it has a fish stick, Mr. Roberts. Is that mackerel, haddock?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a big HC plow, 10-footer.
No weight
Just a heavy-
concern. No wing
Nope.
on this, right, correct?
No.
Okay.
Now, see, there's a plow I know about. I run a fisher.
And we have a fishing dealer here in town, which is really good.
Yes, it is.
Holt.
I notice you've got the specs written around Fisher, probably one of the best plows out there, but, do we have all Fisher plows,
Yes.
all trucks?
Yes, sir.
Now we do. And a lot of that had to wrap around because they were a local dealer and were easy to get bits and pieces and parts over the years.
Makes sense,
It's very convenient.
makes sense.
Any other questions for Mr. Roberts? I'll entertain a motion. Highway Department recommend one-ton truck plow package bid specifications.
One question, Mr. Chairman. Will the
Let me
specification,
get a second first. Motion made by Reuben Wentworth to approve the recommended one-ton plow package bid specification, second by Mr. Whitman. Discussion, Mr. Holt.
yes, it doesn't mention in the bid package here, it's a 2020 one-ton dump truck. It will, when it's sent out?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Any further discussion? Discussion, I'll poll the board for a vote. Mr. McWhitman? Yes. Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Holt?
Yes.
Yes, vote is in the affirmative. At this point, before we go on to number 8, and I'd like to bring up something from the town administrator report, where she said I have her approval. And it has the change order proposal number 1. We hereby propose to furnish materials, form, labor necessary for the completion work due to change of plans or addition of work outside proposed scope. Apply and placement of erosion stone. This change proposal will work and material required to supply and install erosion stone at the base of the newly constructed retaining wall. Type B stone was placed at the exterior base of the wall to prevent further scouring of water erosion. Total volume material was 25 cubic yards. The install unit price for type B erosion stone is $58 per cubic yard. Total of add $1,450. Mr. Roberts, I'll let you go ahead if she wanted you to explain this.
Okay, the work has already been done. That was the erosion stone that was put over. They do have some touch-up work on the erosion stone when they come back, but other than that, we're at 90% there. So that's actually the change order cost. We knew there was, when we raised the wall, that there was going to be a change order and by putting riprap in front of it, but I think it was beneficial for the wall and undermining and everything else in the fabric that we put in. So I actually went ahead and did that.
This stone's in front of the wall.
Yes, that's erosion stone.
What size they put in there? 12?
Yeah, I think it goes 6 to 12.
That runs along the whole wall, the front.
Yep, all along the face.
First year.
And behind that is fabric.
Right.
And again, this is work that's already 90% complete.
They can make a motion to recess for 10 minutes until we can figure out the audio, because we did lose audio for a few minutes, and let Josh work on it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Full the board, Mr. Holt? Yes. Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Sorry, I thought we were recessed. What was
No, we couldn't. This is a motion to recess
Oh,
for 10 minutes.
yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Both of them.
Doesn't do no good if we say no.
That's right.
I know that you want to.
I kick you out anyway. Call the board back to order after the short recess. So I believe that we're in the middle of it. We're talking about the change order proposal number 1, which we'd already approved back in the fall when this all took place. But the reason it's before us is anything referring to Harmony Wall Park was that she will be bringing it before us from now on.
Kenny? Is Kenny in there yet?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Kenny? You don't think we should have bigger than 6 inch in there for riprap?
Should be 6
That
to
ice
12.
can pull that- Yeah, that ice can pull that right out.
Yeah, if you six,
I noticed
it should be 6 to 12 there.
Because I noticed where they put the ledge there, they put bigger. Around that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what I
not
thought was
finished
going
yet,
down
but
the
it should be up to 12 inch.
That might be, I just think it's too small, riprap for water.
Again, I could mention it to them when they come back to use a little larger stone when they complete the whole project.
Yeah, because I just think the ice and stuff will pull that little stuff right out.
Yep.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, Mr. Holt.
Kenny, I'm the new guy here. I'm just curious. Talked about this stone, Virgil's mentioned it a couple times, couple meetings. And how come that was never part of the project to start off with?
Because they had to, I'm sorry. Because they had to lift the wall due to the ledge.
You get ledge out in the front, so they instead of digging the wall into the dirt, setting it down in, they lift it up onto the ledge, so that's why they riprap come in.
Was that the whole section or just one section?
They had to do the whole thing that way. Wherever the ledge height was, they had to set everything to that height. Otherwise, you'd have a big roll in the top of the wall up and down.
Basically, they shimmed it up.
Yeah, the first block they put in, they had to put in at the level of the ledge line to make all the blocks continually going up.
Yeah, I understand that.
It wasn't in the specs that way. It was supposed to be a dug-in base stone, but because the ledge was only 3 inches below the silt, which no one knew at the time, there's no indication of ledge being there.
Thank you.
All right.
Ken, thank you for your input on that. It's a done deal, but it came in, so she wanted to make sure you gentlemen had it for your files. And moving on, we're gonna go to, Ken, I'd like to say on the phone one more time, Mr. Rochelle had amended the agenda Town Beach, just the beach area itself, not Harmony Park. So I'm gonna let him ask, I think he wants to ask you a question. It has to do with the diaper and the stone, I think.
Yes. Kenny, Paul again. Been looking at the town beach itself and the usage of people that were all on it this weekend and trying to manipulate through the stones and sitting on the edges of that dirt bag diaper, whatever we want to call it. Can we reasonably get that removed?
I called the company, they're kind of backed up. I mean, to call them back in or just to remove that. And my suggestion would be, let me just go down with the crew and let me clean it up. The stone's actually going to stay there. It's going to be dumped behind the wall as part of the ADA ramp anyway, so it's not like we're going to haul it far. We'll do it in wheelbarrows and dump it behind that. Let's just clean it up and get it done. I don't want to fight with the company trying to get them back to do one thing without coming back to complete it.
But you going to put more beach sand there?
If it's going to be required, that would be entirely up to, I'd have to talk to Kelly about that, and what kind of fund she has to restore beach sand in that one spot.
I think it would be a great idea to get it cleaned up and done before the weekend.
If we have to,
Wait a minute, one at a time, guys. Weekend or before 4th of July?
I'd like to see it as soon as possible. I think it should be done. It's getting, the beaches in town is getting busier and busier every weekend.
Kenny, we can't pull couple loads of sand out of the Getchell pit?
No, it's not beach sand. We've been taking white sand, and it actually came from McKay's, but we've actually picked it up from John Jedry. That's where we've been pulling it from. It isn't the first time we've added sand back up by the guardrails, and the Parks and Rec people actually bring it down and fill in the spots. We just dump it across the street and clean it up.
I just think if you think it needs it, dress the beach out for the summer, I think we should put it in there.
I agree.
The whole,
I think that's part of the project for GMI. I think we should, if we have to put sand in, we back charge GMI.
well, I don't know if they took any sand out where they put the rocks, because that's why the diaper's down there. Our guys have to go up, pull up sand if sand is needed. Rob's saying, needed, he'll put it back in. As far as the GMI requirement, I don't think that has anything to do with it.
Is GMI responsible to pull that up?
It is to pull it up, but the problem is, you've got to remember the Board of Selectmen put a stop work order on it, which delayed this outcome where we are now. They're trying to get in, put a stop work order. So as a contractor in the past and stuff, pull me off a job, now you want me back in. I can't rush right to it because they got other things already in line.
Got other things lined up.
Oh, I understand that, but he would have to put the stand back if he pulled that out.
I don't know if they would be pulling up, that's why they put it on a diaper. They probably end up trying to pick it up with the excavator, or walk it over.
Oh, but if trying to clean that stone, stand back.
Most of it's all sitting on a diaper.
If it needs sand, if it looks like it needs it, we should get someone to put it back on.
Right, and we add sand to that beach every 4 or 5 years, we put a little bit of sand in there to make it decent. I mean, that beach gets used a lot.
How much time would you need, Ken, for that?
If I move into crew tomorrow morning with the authorization of the Board of Selectmen, we'll do it in a day.
That's by the 4th.
Well, that way, because there's a lot of people down there using that beach, and
All right.
it's nice and shut.
Oh,
It was full last weekend.
Yeah,
And it's gonna be full by the end of the week, it's gonna be hot.
Right.
So what's the board's pleasure? Ask Mr. Roberts put on hold what he had for tomorrow, and we go down there and get that cleaned up tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah. Motion that, gentlemen.
I make a motion that we allow Kenny to go down and straighten out the town beach, add sand if it has to be added to make the beach decent for the people.
I second.
To allow Mr. Roberts to go down to clean up the stone on the diaper with the beaches, add sand in if it's needed. And can I add to your motion that he said where he'll put the rocks? Okay. Second by Paul Rochelle. Is further discussion? All the board. Mr. Holt?
yeah.
Yes.
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 Wentworth, yes. Votes in the affirmative. Ken, thank you for coming in tonight and staying with us on this, and good luck tomorrow, and thank you for that extra work.
Yeah, and I'll be here till the end of the meeting in case you need me again.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Kenny.
Thanks,
for the
Ken.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to old business, looks like the Board of Selectmen taking care of a lot of old business, so the town administrator just didn't want to give us any tonight. So we'll move on to Selectmen's reports.
Here comes the old business.
Mr. Holt, anything you want to say?
Oh, other than at the last emergency management meeting, they were more or less waiting for the governor's 3 o'clock announcement that day. But we discussed a lot of issues, basically old stuff. One new thing was the milfoil committee is going to be meeting up at the Pearson Road tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Going to be outdoors, and I'm on that committee. I can't make that meeting, Mr. Chairman. I work at the golf course on Tuesdays, and I have to do it. But anybody else wants to go, more than willing to go.
Kelly will probably she'll email you the minutes and what transpired at the meeting, which is nice. Last year, she would do that too. She would send over what was discussed at the meeting, everything. She was really good about it last year, so I can see what went on and how it went on. Mr. Rochelle.
I just want to bring up the boat ramp. Mr. Roberts and myself went out there last Friday morning early. We measured, and I actually dove in, snorkeled, and went down to the end of the ramp, looked at the end of the ramp, that is there now currently, the concrete, it drops off anywhere from 18 to 22 inches off the very end of that. And that's where the problem is when people back all the way down too far, their wheels are going off the edge of that and dropping right down to the frame, and then they can't get back up. So that's the issue at hand there. There are some large boulders that are down there, been down there for years. It goes gradually and then drops off. So we've got another 8 to 10 feet that could be worked with. If we could put in stone, and if we could extend the ramp another 6 to 8 feet, I think that would take care of the problem. And Ken has done some research. Ken, are you still with us?
Yeah, get back on.
Yeah, he said he was gonna hang on next.
Will work, we extend.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thank you, Ken.
Ken, can you elaborate on the concrete that could be placed?
Yes, we have a contract with Shea Concrete for our catch basins and stuff, so I went through them. And basically, they sent us up what Watermark is actually putting over in Laconia right now. And the only thing I saw that I didn't like the width of them, so I called him back. He's going to send me a quote on it, but they're about $600 a sheet. And what it is, they're 2 feet 6 inches wide, and they're 18 feet wide, and it just happens to fit the 18-foot width that we have down there now. So it depends how many planks that you would like to purchase, and they're going 2 feet 6 inches each time. They weigh about 3,200 pounds. I called Winnipesaukee Marine just to get a general idea. They can set them, that much weight, they can set them all in one shot. The biggest thing that they couldn't do, and we all talked about it, is what we wanted to do is put 3-inch stone in first and then put 3/4 on top so you could level it. But he really didn't have anybody that would go in the water to do that portion of it. So that's a logistics thing to be able to get that material out there and get it laid underneath to level it. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
This require wetlands permit, Kenny, to extend that?
Yes, and I talked to Cindy Balsius. It's about $1,600 for the permit and $400 a state, so it's around $2,000 to get the permitting fees done.
You don't think we'd get away with getting stone in there without the concrete?
No, actually, I had a big conversation with Mr. Parker today, and he feels the same way because we were talking about it, and he says the problem is if they power load right there, they'll just blow that stone right down over the edge. It'll be there for a little bit, but it ain't going to last long.
So Kenny, I guess I'm a little confused. I'm trying to picture in my head what you're talking about with those slabs at 2 inches or 2 feet.
2 feet wide.
Well, I understand that, but I'm trying to picture it in my head. Is there a way I can get a picture of it if you get a quote back from him?
Yeah, I actually have the one at the 1.3. He's going to do the 2.6. I asked him, could he double that form up, and he said yes. So it's basically 3,200 pounds, and if we measured right to left on that facing the water, it's 18 feet wide. These are 18-foot planks.
Okay.
So they already have the width, and then the depth would be 2 feet 3 inches. They're 6 inches thick reinforced concrete.
When I went down, I took pictures, which they're being developed. And hopefully I can have them here for next. And the thing came out, I took like 20 pictures of what it looked like at the end of that ramp. That ramp, the concrete slabs that are there is 8.
Not to prolong this anymore, we'd have to ask the town administrator then at this point, figure out where these funds can come from. One, for wetlands permits. 2 is the cost of the slabs, planking, cost of the stone. Where we would come up with this money, cost of setting it, construction. My one question I'm going to have for you, is there a way that we can mark down there at the ramp? If you go past this point with a 32-foot boat and your truck, you will go over the edge and you could cause damage to your boat.
Put a sign down in the ramp. You're right in the water on the
Oh, right with the end of the ramp is, it's about 25 feet from where that last joint is, almost in line with the stone walls.
Because
They drop right off.
we know that we have a problem now. At least make aware that there is a drop-off which could cause damage to the tree.
Set it off the ramp side in the wall a little bit, and out at the end of the ramp, say, end of ramp.
Mm-hmm.
like a foot or 2 foot back from the end of the ramp.
Mr. Holt?
I just read we had an email the other day about the state ramp.
Fishing game's gonna start
Yeah.
fencing it off, yes.
Now, do we have any kind of idea on a completion date?
Years.
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, that's what I thought it was. I thought I read, because,
18 months.
Going up next week, right?
Mr. Chairman?
The other thing,
because when that ramp is done, like it was before, or when the people were using it, the town ramp had very little use.
Mr. Roberts? Hold on.
Yes, sir. I had a meeting actually with the state down there today and the contractor coming in, and they're actually gating off everything next week. They're putting the fences back up. They're going to start putting in the diapers and stuff. The cranes will be moving in. They got July 13th as an approximate date when the cranes come in, and once they're there, they're going to start right away as setting the cofferdams down in, and they got a second crane there to start pulling on whatever obstructions they had there before, because their wetlands permit now encompasses those obstructions. And they're looking at 1.5 years from the time they start before completion. And that's the parking lot as well, the digging down and the raising of the parking lot.
Is it, my mention of a sign, putting something down to make people aware of, and Donald talked about putting it in the water at the end of the ramp, is that feasible, or are we looking for a problem, somebody hitting that?
No, I think what I would do is probably put it in the corner of the walls on both sides. Ramp only extends 25 feet from this point. I'd have to measure it. I think the slabs that Paul and I measured were 24 feet. I would measure it right up to the wall and say, boat ramp ends 25 feet to drop off, or whatever the measurement may be. We'll have to do that. And now we can do them hand-painted 4-inch lettering signs in-house, or we could have them professionally made. That would be entirely up to the board.
Well, if they look professional, hand-painted, I would not have a problem with that. But it just should look nice and neat within the area. Mr. McDonald?
the other thing we can do is open up Echo Point's ramp. That's a town-owned ramp. No reason why the taxpayers can't use it, because all the Echo Point, Peggy's Cove, they all use it.
Well, I thought it was open to use.
No, we've got signs down there, no parking, can't use the ramp.
Well, no parking, no parking, because the road's not wide enough, the park when it was a boat trail. But they could drop off there and go to the bay and drop
They
it.
could drop off there, but it says no, ramp's closed. Signs say it down there. We could you could put 5, 6 cars where we own beside the ramp. You can probably put 2 or 3 cars there. You had to, cut the bushes back. We own right up almost to that yellow house.
Well, the only thing I'm saying is that if the ramp's closed, nobody from that area should be using the ramp anyways.
They all use it. And then they scream like hell when anybody else uses it.
There was as I recall, flogging by Blaine a few years back at a Parks and Recreation meeting, talked about. It was the locals there that people couldn't park their cars there. But the ramp was supposed to be for any.
But the
Well, the problem is, though, the road's narrow, you try to get a boat back around there, that's not a problem, but it's the cars coming in and out, or having to wait. That would be my only concern. I'd be willing to spend $3,000 to $4,000, even up to $5,000, to get this ramp done if we have it. Even for future use, because even though it's little use once that's open,
$5,000 to $6,000 and open up Echo Point, make our beach. We own 90 feet on one side of the house and 85 on the other.
yeah, that roadway going up through there, back to 28, we don't know much on.
Don't need to own much on it. We have a 4-acre lot in there.
All right, so I'm opening up a can of worms here, so, again, if you could get us, and the town administrator, get us some costs, and that's what this will cost, project will cost, that would be great, where the funds could possibly come from.
I know, last time I did this was
Maybe the fishing game would donate some money to us, where they're putting a lot of fishermen out.
because the house that I talked about right there.
Mr. Roberts, I want to thank you, I don't know, Mr. Rochelle, if he has anything else.
Oh, no, thank you for your help the other day, Kenny, and like I said, I'll get the pictures developed have them for next week.
And I'll call in first thing in the morning and have those signs made for both sides. I'll go down and measure it in the morning, right from the stone wall down. So from these signs down, there's so many feet before it drops off the end of the ramp, so they'll know.
I want to say 24 feet would be safe, but I think it's 25 feet.
Right.
At least they have a warning, that's the main thing. All right,
Yep.
Mr. Roberts, thank you.
Thank you, Kenny.
Okay, have a great night.
You told me you didn't have any more.
No, I said, hey, great.
Oh, all right.
Go ahead.
May I?
Yes, sir.
Just on the Selectmen report as well, tentatively, the ski show would be planned for August 22nd, rain date for the 23rd, if everything is a go with the emergency team.
Yeah, we heard that today at the meeting, management meeting today. Yep.
Okay, you heard that. Who, may I ask who?
Ryan told us.
Okay, good.
Talk to Nancy.
Yes, yeah, because I just got an email just the other day from Jonathan about it.
What was the date again?
August 22nd at 3 o'clock. Rain date would be the next day, August 23rd. Last, but not least, Bay Hill Road. We have to come up with a plan. The traffic is getting faster, coming down the hill, 40, 50 miles an hour, coming down around the corner. It's marked on both ends at 25 miles per hour. Steve Parker was trying to pick up my boat last week. Almost got hit twice, trying to back across the road to get into the back to get a boat and take out. People yelling at him, totally disrespectful, screaming and hollering at each other. They're getting faster.
How you flag people?
I was down below and had to run up and try to give him a hand, but I was a little late. But either way, everybody's getting faster on the hill. I don't know what the exact solution is. Second problem we have, I don't think we're enforcing noise ordinance. We have exhausts. They got, you name it, Flowmasters, Magnaflow, Thrush, all these exhausts. They start at the bottom of the hill and they punch it. And that's all you hear. And it's getting worse. Constantly coming up that hill, up the hill, downhill. It's all you hear. Yeah, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I hate to be one to complain about noise, but it's getting out of hand. I mean, the whole neighborhood's starting to really get upset with it. Yeah, I mean, everybody's working in their homes, doing a nice job, working on everything. It looks beautiful, and the noise and the traffic's just going way too fast. So I don't know what the solution would be to maybe put signs down, reduce it to 15 miles an hour.
Well, to reduce the 15, you'd have to do a speed study.
Mm-hmm.
The only way the courts would enforce it, or the police department could enforce it.
Especially on
I
that.
would suggest that we ask possibly the police chief, because it's not, it's there, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take away from that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's happening everywhere in town.
Oh, I
My
know.
road in the morning, I have one that goes by there 50 miles an hour on my road.
Mhm.
My road's not posted, but by state law, it's considered 25. But everywhere in town is the same thing's happening. Main Street again. So I don't know if we send a letter
I know
down,
they're doing 60.
down to the police chief requesting certain areas be patrolled at certain times and see if that helps. If you gotta write a few tickets, you write a few tickets.
Yeah, 'cause I doubt you'd ever
If
get
they
that.
sat on Jewett Farm Road, they'd be nailing every other car.
Yeah, I doubt you could ever get that hill speed limit lowered with the slope on the hill anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have no problem with that.
Or the radar. If we could put the radar at the top of the hill for a little while, or at the, somewhere on the hill, put the radar, and at least they're gonna see it, they're gonna think about it and slow down, because it does work a little
We did
bit.
have an accident down there 2 weeks ago, I believe. It was right there at the curb.
Yes.
I have no problems. The consensus of the board with have the town administrator send a letter down to the police chief and ask him possibly start looking at some of the speed on Bay Hill Road and other town roads.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna do it myself, but I thought I'd bring it up for discussion first.
I had these beside my house, they're doing 60 going to the dump.
See, on East Side Drive, Mr. Chairman, they have that radar unit
Yes,
there now,
it's working.
and that works pretty good.
It does.
And I brought that up before, when I was on the budget committee. I don't see, I think this town could use 2 or 3 of those. And you can do just as much with those as you can with a police officer.
Yeah,
Yes.
And
it works.
Well, that's maybe something for next year's budget, Mr. Hopefully you bring forward for 2 or 3 more of them.
And I had said this last year, the cruisers that we're not using, just take it down and pack it.
But
that works too.
the chief didn't want to do it. He didn't want to leave it.
Afraid of vandalism.
He was afraid of vandalism. I'd suggest the same thing on the hill. But the radar, I think, will help.
Well, we bought dash cams from years ago, see if they're still down there, put them in it.
And if Brian would like to call, I come over and we can discuss it and walk up and down, whatever.
And just watch. That's all you got.
Stand there for an hour. Only one last thing, and I just want to say, no, this is just a quickie.
Now we're on
Just
fire.
a quickie. Just to say thank you. I don't know if anybody has said thank you to the garden club, but they've worked really hard around town and with flowers and
Every year, they do.
And I just think they're doing a great job, and just want to say thank you. That really beautification and what they've done in town, and flowers and stuff.
Here, I'll agree with that.
They do a beautiful job every year.
And there's exceptionally one young lady that lives, her husband last fall, I cannot remember her name. We sent her a letter and a card for everything she does.
Nancy?
She's out there by herself every morning, going through the bed in the bay.
That's,
Mary knows who she is,
yeah.
and I should know her name
She
too,
was
I
happy.
don't.
She's
She
the one
comes in the store, but she is so dedicated to those beds.
Yeah, she's the one that did.
Watering, weeding, watering, everything.
Laundry. She's so dedicated to it, out of everyone. I'm not saying the others aren't, but I see her there in the mornings, cold mornings, warm mornings, at evening, but she has done an exceptional job for her, to give her heart to the bay flowers like she does. Anything else, sir? Sure, one more thing?
No.
Sure, no.
That's it.
Mr. Whitman.
We have not, the Old Home Week Committee has not met, but I did talk to the chairman on the phone Sunday about the possibility of having an Old Home Day or whatever we could do. He was thinking maybe to keep the car show, which I know would make Bob very happy, but maybe on the same day, having a barbecue behind the town hall, like what we now call the block party, but having it on the day of the car show. And do those two things on the same day. And I just thought I'd run it by the board before I call the chairman back and say, okay, now, request that we can have a meeting.
How about if instead of behind the town hall, I know Railroad Park is there, it's nice, but you don't have the area for social distancing. What about maybe a committee contacting Profile Bank, where I used to hold the contractor shows?
That's a good
Flat,
idea.
nice field, it's wide open, you got nice flat fields, maybe in conjunction with Profile Bank, you folks could work something out and still be in the village. But it's a nice flat area, you can have more social distancing, you can have some barbecues and grills.
People will see it.
Good idea.
Okay, so I'm going to give the chairman a call back and run that by him, but also say it's time we have a meeting. You have to approach the emergency team and, where we're going to meet, which I'm sure will be outside at the senior center. So,
Okay, anything else?
no, that's it.
Just let me go.
I'm wondering what the board's gonna do at midnight tonight. Government buildings are supposed to be open. Are we opening the town hall?
Okay, well, that's part of my next report.
Okay, I'll wait for you.
Okay. So emergency management team today, plans and everything are being put into place. They were waiting for Portland glass, about safety glass coming down. I offered them plexiglass to make temporary use. My store, I have cut pieces down there, I think would be large enough for them. Mr. Devers and them are gonna have to measure it. There was talk of how we're going to limit folks coming into town hall, because you still gotta keep your social distancing. The group gatherings will be done with tonight. After that, you can have whatever you want for group
After
gatherings,
50.
but you still have to separate everything by 60. So they're gonna be looking at this room, opening up town hall for town meetings, and how many can fit in here. We'll still have the audio, so if we fill this capacity, they can still join on the phone or at the museum. So a lot of things are going into place, the plans are there. So by July 1st, they hope to have everything done and up, and the plan ready to open up. The main thing is town hall, closing the upstairs, because there's no need for the public to come upstairs, because you're only talking finance office, town administrator, welfare office. Welfare officer can go downstairs, meet in Heike room. That was my idea, if the team goes that way. The idea would be the building inspector's office has a door, they could put a shield there, still have an opening to pass papers. Planning department needs a little planning, town clerk's office needs a little planning in between each station. And also, how are you going to keep the social distancing coming into town hall? So the ramp was discussed, marking that out. The ramp would be used for entrance, the stairs would be used for exit, unless they're handicapped and they need to go down the ramp, then we'd have to, ask folks to turn their back to the folks coming down. The next thing would be measuring off in town hall and having somebody at the town door so we don't get overloaded. So you're gonna have to look for a door greeter, because you just can't have 30 people walking the town hall at once, because you would not do the social distancing that is being recommended. So up in our county, I believe the restaurants can open up. They're not limited to 50%, because as long as they knew their social distancing in there, they can have whatever. It's the small, it's the counties below us. So Mr. Heath, the fire chief, Mr. Devers, and Liz are working on a plan to get everything open for 1st of July. Yes, sir.
1st of July. We
Yes, sir.
discussed the same thing a couple weeks ago.
And they have been working on it. Public restrooms, there will be something later in the town administrator's report for the public restrooms to get opened up on the west side.
But that was why we discussed it a few weeks ago, so we'd be ready when they said, oh, we could open.
Right, but the main thing is the contractors from Portland Glass and Granite State Glass and others have not gotten back to us. That's what they were waiting for. They have not. So now they're issuing plan 2, how to do this. So in a week and a half, they have things open.
So that was what we discussed, was put the temporary plexiglass up until they come, because we figured they wouldn't be able to get here.
That's correct, but the emergency management team is still in effect. They're still in charge over us.
And Virgil, remember that the governor's orders and the 2.0 and everything is not specifically for municipal governments. Municipal governments are silent on that. And according to the information that I'm receiving, probably only about 1/3 or 25% so far are doing some sort of slow opening.
And that's
The goal is July 1st. We could stay closed for months and we would be legal.
That's fine. But we discussed a few weeks ago about getting opened up so we could open up this place. And you said that you had the plexiglass way back a couple weeks ago. And yet, here we are, we still haven't picked up plexiglass. We still haven't done, it's like we kicking the can down the road, and we'll get to it 2 days before.
Well, I would recommend you call the police chief tomorrow morning, let him know that. Because like I said, emergency management team is still into effect right now. Because like Liz said, the governor did not come out and say anything about local and town, city governments.
Just government buildings will be open at 11:59. This is a government building. This is town government.
I did not see that in the orders.
So
And I did not hear that today.
PM, the buildings will be starting to open.
And I did not, and we will start opening, and that's what they're recommending, July 1st, if I'm not mistaken.
We're aiming for that.
With certain limits, because we just can't open that door wide open, because you still got to do your social distancing. I believe today, Saturday, there was, if I remember the report from Ryan, there was 47 or 48 new cases. Sunday, there was 23.
In New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Throughout the whole New Hampshire, it's not just here.
Yeah.
But we're still having cases appear. We've been very fortunate with what we've done, and we've been very the people that we've had come into our community, especially here in New Hampshire, that we haven't had a spike of this thing.
You got a few weeks to go.
Well, actually, not according to the fire chief. And you'll hear that at the next few meetings. They're saying it could be just 2 days that you'll see a response to the bacteria, to the virus, not 2 weeks. Some will be 2 weeks, but if I remember recall today, he said there was a possibility that it can only take 2 days.
There are so many unknowns.
Yeah, like you said, there's so many unknowns. They're changing things every day.
Yeah, we're fine if I turn that on. Yeah.
But we are working on it. Okay. No, go right ahead, sir.
I am.
Are you getting hot?
I'm going right into a tether.
Do I need to take your temperature?
I feel like this. I'm going right into a tether. I'm going to turn red.
You need to take your temperature, sir. So at this point, I have nothing else for my selectmen's report other than to say, down at the Bay Area with all the folks that are coming in every weekend and every day using the Bay Area Parks and Rec grounds, maintenance crew is doing an excellent job keeping things picked up.
Yes.
Like I said, there will be discussion of the public
Let's try and
restrooms.
get it on first.
Coming up in the town administrator's report, she is going to ask you to do something. I'm going to recommend it, what she is asked for, emergency management team's asking. So at this point, I will stop there. I will turn the floor over to the town administrator.
All right.
Leave Dion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item I have has to do with swimming area water testing. You'll see a document at your seat that looks like this. We were informed about a week ago by DES that they will no longer this year be testing the swim areas in the state. And it's up to the municipality to test if they wish. So my question to you is, would you like to have the town test the water? It will be one test in June, one in July, and one in August. We pay the fees.
How much of the fees do we know?
Don't know.
And if I can do stuff in there for me, if you remember last year, the state had told us that they were gonna stop doing water testing because the water had cleaned up so much in the Bay Area, primarily over to the swim platform.
For years, yeah.
Yeah, to the beach area, they were gonna do require one or two. I still think it's nice to, especially the beach area, to test, at least twice a year. We'll have to pay for it. The public dock would be well worth it, just in case, especially if we have a lot of this dry weather we've been having, and all of a sudden we have soaking runoffs. The bacteria levels normally have the consistency to pick up. The last thing with everything we got going, we don't want people getting sick or having swimmer's ear or anything like that in the bay.
So this has to be a selectman decision.
I just wish we had an idea of the cost.
Well, I have a problem with it because state-owned water, owns that water. And
That's a point.
if they don't wanna test it, then we should be suing them. Because that's their responsibility, is that water.
Is there a reason why they weren't coming up with tests? Is it because of COVID this year?
Budget funds.
Because that's-
No money.
And that's,
They're doing it statewide.
Oh, that's right, because they gave it all away on unemployment.
well, tell them to stop wasting it. I mean, you can see they're paving out there, they just waste money.
So another option would be to leave it up to the health officer to make a determination. You know, I mean, there are several.
Well, that's where it should be.
here.
That's where it should be
Yeah.
with the health officer. He feels he's going by, or he doesn't like the looks or anything. If he wants to test it, I feel he has the authority to do that.
I think we should be sending a letter back to the state demanding that they test their waterways for the public. And put a letter right in the paper saying that the state is gonna refuse to test your lake
And
water.
we encourage people to come to our beach.
In two areas that people swim at.
Right, in the swim platform.
Beach.
Yeah. So we're encouraging people to come into this water. It needs to be tested.
I have no problem, but I think we should leave it up to Mr. Devers and have him get back to us to when he wants to sample it and what the cost will be to test it.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
we have a water department in town that takes water samples all the time,
Yes, sir.
takes them to Concord
Yes, sir.
to get them tested.
Yes, sir.
Can we incorporate that in any way?
It's a possibility, but that would have to go through the health officer, make sure
Right.
it's being done right and they're being handled right.
Well, I would like to have him understand, maybe he could take that route too.
Yes, sir.
I will definitely pass that on to him.
So can we,
Yeah.
so I would like to table this, have Mr. Devers get back to us, tell what he feels his schedule should be to test the waters in the bay.
Yep.
And possibly find out a cost.
So you don't even wanna think about sending a letter.
Although I have
to
no
the
problem
state.
sending a letter to the state.
I think we should.
No, they're
Because
supposed
the
to.
state is still sending municipalities room and meals tax, if I remember reading it right, all the way through the budget of 2021.
Yeah.
Even though the funds are down right now because the biennial budget had already been done and approved. So we're still getting some room and meals tax out of it, so I feel part of that room and meals tax comes from the bay, from those restaurants, so they should know that they have good swimming areas down. So, I have no,
This suggestion twice a year, twice in the summer.
you're gonna at least have to do it in July and do it
July.
in August.
Beginning of August.
So, yeah, it's done once in June, once in July, once in August. So, I mean, June's halfway over.
All we're worried about is too much.
We're having cold enough temperatures right now,
We're gonna have to do it.
but I will leave it up to Mr. Devers' decision.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do it, but I think it's important to send a nasty letter to the state
Yes, ma'am.
and put it in the paper that the state will no longer test your waterways.
We could do that.
Okay.
Because they just keep cutting back.
Yeah, we pay more.
And we pay.
All right, gentlemen, moving on to the next TA's report.
Yep. You have at your desk an email from the solid waste superintendent.
Yep.
He is asking that the solid waste facility, that the fees that were waived be reinstituted effective June 26th.
Shoot, boy, I miss getting all my stuff up there. There's no way I can get it, but can I get a waiver? I haven't been able to go to the dump now for 3 weeks, you know, and I think it's unfair.
They won't charge you, you're a
I'm
selectman.
being sarcastic, right?
I forgot to bring my 12-by-2 resets, you know.
So I would need a motion
So moved.
from you, okay?
So moved to have the fees reinstated as of Friday the 26th, June Friday the 26th.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Reuben Webb to have all the fees at the solid waste center put back into force June Friday the 26th, second by Mr. Holt. Discussion. I'll poll the board then. Mr. McDonald,
No.
Mr. Whitman,
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle,
Yes.
Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Mr. Whitworth, yes. 4 in the affirmative, 1 nay.
Now,
I asked you for discussion.
well, now I'm
I'm
gonna.
gonna get it anyway.
Because we took these fees up because of the COVID and this and that, and couldn't touch anything. And now we're going back business as usual, except for the town hall open.
As long as they, I hear what you're saying, Rick.
This is a gradual opening. It's been happening for, you know, a week or 2 or 3.
But it's
everywhere.
okay for the dump people to get contacted, because they got a lot more people that will come in this building.
Well, we can't do it all at once, Virgil. This
They
is
have-
one
Well,
way
no, I'm just saying, you're opening
They
that
have-
up 100%.
Wait a minute.
They have outside areas, they can social distance. It's a lot different than inside of a town hall with no person at the door to ensure.
They're outdoors.
Yeah.
And they don't let anybody in any of the buildings.
Swap out, there's always somebody sitting. Have them swap out at the front door.
Next item, ma'am.
Next item is you have a packet at your seat.
Which one?
Yep. It's titled TA Report.
They're all titled to
It
you.
looks like this.
Mahoney?
Yep, Mahoney. Yep, Mahoney.
I got my homes.
All right. So, the emergency management team is asking that the Board of Selectmen utilize Employee Manual Section 9.3.15 concerning the board's right to waive any requirement pertaining to the purchase of services. I ask that you use that section and waive Section 9.3.4. Section 9.3.4 is the section that requires competitive bidding or solicitation. The emergency management team wants to have Mahoney Plumbing install touchless hardware in the public restrooms, beginning with the west side public restroom. The cost will exceed the $5,000, amount in the policy. We do not have enough time to obtain other bids. It's difficult getting vendors to the site. The state reimbursement will be ending soon, and this needs to be prioritized. So I'm asking that the board utilize 9.3.15 to waive 9.3.4.
Okay, Virgil. I'll call on you.
All we gotta do, instead of spending $9,300, we could put a sign down there that says clean twice a day or once a day. And we don't have to add all this stuff in because of COVID. I mean, we're on a set budget and everybody's complaining that, oh, we gotta watch the budget because of taxes, this and that, and then you just keep throwing stuff in, here 10 grand, here's 20 grand, here's 30 grand. I mean, it's gotta stop. I mean, we don't have to put automatic flushes on those toilets.
So,
COVID, so you don't touch the handles.
The restroom.
Germs.
right now, to do the toilets,
Jerry.
everybody has to flush the urinals, they have to flush the toilets, they have to touch the sinks. You notice in a lot of your places, public restrooms,
Gone touch them.
whether it's the state, whether the state rest areas, commercial restaurants,
Airport.
gas stations, airports, everyone has gone to electronics. One, it saves on money for fuel, it saves on water. But 2 is there's no touching. This was brought up because of the COVID, because this COVID is going to be here for a while for us, no matter how we look at it. We're going to have to live with it. Could have a second spike this year. I don't know if we are or not. That's just what's quoted. This funds here, if we have this done, could be paid back through the Gopher Fund or through FEMA's distribution.
Could be.
Could be, if we get going on it.
Out of it.
As long as we can show that
That's
it's
gonna
being
be out of money,
used
too.
to protect the public. Mr. Heath feels 99% sure it will be approved. But if we wait and drag our feet and then decide to do it, we end up having to pay it ourselves. I am in agreement with it because I know it saves water.
Didn't they already cut some stuff out of the gopher on us
No,
that they
sir.
didn't pay?
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, we got a paper
We already got,
I think
we
it
got
was
our
the
first
chief or
payment from
something.
Gopher last week, which came in what it was supposed to be.
that he put in for it, and they cut certain parts out.
I
And
didn't
that's
know.
what they're gonna keep doing.
Mr. Chairman?
I think if we put a sign up saying they're not sterilized bathrooms, or they're cleaned once a day, instead of putting 10 grand into them for people not to get their hands dirty.
Isn't this also part of what we're talking about in the future, redoing those bathrooms anyway? To reconfigure those bathrooms and modernize them and make them handicap accessible, ADA compliant?
We already did that.
The ones downstairs.
We already did
The ones at the bay are.
The ones that's talking about here.
You know, this is here, we're talking west side bathroom.
All
But I'm just referring to that as well.
All public restrooms, you will see a plan from the health officer coming in, that all public restrooms throughout the town will be going.
That's what I'm getting at.
One, it saves money on water,
electricity.
well, not electricity.
It costs you more
So
electricity.
it's basically,
With lights.
it's gonna save you money on your water. The water will not be used much, especially washing your hands.
Well-
With soap
And
dispensers.
if they're pushing the ADA, like they're doing, then you tell them to push right on the state and put the sidewalks in right down there where they don't have the pads at the end of the sidewalks that they made us pay the money for.
So this is for all public restrooms in the town, beginning with the west side. And
Mhm.
obviously, we probably won't get to all of them.
We only have 2.
Mr. Chairman,
In the bay, we have 2, but we also have the community center, we have the town hall, we have the different buildings where the public can use the bathrooms. The goal is to avoid spreading.
Hey, I would say just put up a sign that they're
It
not,
should be an
they're not
easy
washed.
thing to decide on. It's kind of a no-brainer. We're gonna get reimbursed.
Chairman.
Oh, you're saying that now, but what are you gonna say when they start cutting that?
I just call Mr. Holt.
Presently, we're doing the bathrooms over down below, I believe.
We're not yet, no, we're waiting for
Planning.
the.
That was my point.
Okay. When's this gonna stop? Every night, it's another, Virgil, you just said it, it's another 10,000, another 8,000. We sat here about a month ago and said we gotta start thinking about spending money. Well, we're spending money, and those toilets are gonna work just as good, and people are still gonna wash their hands. It's because of the other reason. It's a good idea. It should be done maybe, but come on. I just wanna know what's coming next week.
We don't know.
And,
Well, like I said, the other thing is, I'm not saying it's 100% sure thing, but if you approve this, they will submit it to FEMA to see if it will be allowed to be paid through FEMA. You say if it's not gonna be allowed to be paid through FEMA, then it doesn't happen. But we have to decide, because once these other governor's orders are lifted throughout the summer, the FEMA money dries up.
The gopher account dries up, and we were allotted $126,000 to use
To pay for the help.
to.
We haven't used any of, much of that at all.
Right,
I think
right.
mine said we've used 10,000, 12,000.
And the gopher fund, which is for the emergency responder stipends that's being paid out right now, that's only good for 8 weeks and 2 days. We're probably about halfway through that right now.
so you're saying that'll pay all of this?
I'm saying that these funds are drying up and they're going away, and we should grab them while we can.
Well, we did grab it. We grabbed the 126,000 already.
Well, no, we haven't used it though. We just can't
It's
sit on
sitting
it.
there in the treasury of the state. We have to
apply for it.
provide these invoices and things that are
Well, they get it.
related to the state of emergency.
We'll provide them and then ask them if they're gonna pay them for us.
So there's certain criteria that the state of New Hampshire has. It's like a grant, you gotta fill out some forms, you have to apply, you have to show the proof, and that's what we're doing here. And
We're looking for approval from us tonight to just approve this, so that they can go for it and try to get the funds, right, am I correct?
Pay us first.
Hmm?
Let them pay us first. Then we'll
It
put,
doesn't work that way. It's a grant. You gotta
Put that into your motion. Allow the town administrator and emergency management team to apply for the funds needed to electronically,
As presented.
as presented, okay, and to apply for the grant.
and get the money before we do the job.
Approval,
Approval for the grant, of doing the job.
100% approval.
Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
So move.
Made by Reuben Wentworth to have the town administrator and emergency management team to apply for the grant to, as presented from Mahoney's Plumbing and Heating for the installation to the west side bathrooms for 10 automatic flush valves for 3.
Well, that's just the quote.
That was all the bathrooms. Side?
Public
This is
housing.
just the west side.
Yes. It's an expensive endeavor, which why if we're gonna get reimbursed for it, it's good to do that. Because once it's gone, we're not gonna get reimbursed
We're
for
not
it.
doing it yet. We're just approving to actually get the grant, see if we get the money.
Motion been made. Do I have a second from Mr. Rochelle? Any further discussion?
Yeah, we're gonna get 3 bids.
This is why she just read to you. She read the
Virgil.
waiver.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, but we don't make a.
Section 9.3.4, the section that requires competitive bidding. The emergency management team is asking you to waive that policy so we can get this applied for and ask for it. And once we know we're applied for it, it's also asked the contract to get right in because we have to get it invoiced by a certain time.
Time is of the
That's
essence.
gonna be your first vote if we're gonna do that. We're gonna waive it, that's gonna be the first vote, then the second vote, you're.
Right now, we're just waiting to apply for the grant. Second vote can be to expedite, once the grant is approved, to expedite the matter with the plumber.
First vote's gotta be to waive that rule.
No,
The receipt, the quote here from the plumbing company is what will be sent to Concord. This is our proof.
vote the first one to apply for the grant, and I'll ask for a motion on the second
But
one.
we haven't agreed to waive that, to go to that.
On the second one, I will. Mr. Rochelle, will you take back your motion? Oh, your second?
Take back a second.
I'll take back my motion. I'll remake the motion. To apply for the Gopher Fund for a grant in the amount of $9,265.78. To apply for electronic, 10 automatic flush valves for toilets, 3 electronic flush valve for urinals, and 2 hand-free sensor-operated faucet plants. All Kohler products and hybrids, energy cells for operation, straighten existing plumbing to ensure proper operation material. Don't interrupt me. Provided by Mahoney's Plumbing and Heating. At the same time, I'd like to ask that the Board of Selectmen waive 9.3, Section 9.3.4, that the section requires competitive bidding for solicited proposals and award money for this job to Mahoney's Plumbing and Heating, recommended by the Emergency Management Team. That is my motion.
So move.
All right, now I'll ask for discussion.
Now, you're already awarding that bid.
That's right. This time is of the essence. We get the grant, we have to get it in before the grants start drying up.
You didn't say that, did you?
Yes, I did.
You said apply for the grant. There was nothing in your motion that said if we don't get the grant.
We don't get the grant, we don't have the money to do the job.
What are you talking about? You got all kinds of money in this town.
No, we don't. You just said it yourself 3 minutes ago.
Checkbook. Pay my taxes.
If we do not get the grant, we do not go forward.
You're here to pay these taxes. If we don't get the grant, we don't.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I already paid my taxes at my house. I also paid them in my store today and my rental property.
We got all kinds of money.
There you go.
Yeah, we're rich now.
Well, I had to sign, I had to
Just
send
paid
an
all the
example.
bills.
Because we're going for the grant first, I will vote for this. On the same token, I see Bob's point.
All right, I'm not gonna make another motion. I'll make a motion after we get this one voted for that say if we don't get the grant money, we don't do it. Okay?
Just like the
That's,
fire.
that's the way I understood it. But
All I understood is that we wouldn't do it if we didn't get the grant money.
That's.
Any further discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
yes,
Mr. Whitman?
Yes,
Mr. McDonald?
No.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Vote is 4-4, 1 nay. Now, the motion will stand as, I make a motion that if we do not receive the grant money, the project does not go forward. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made by Reuben Wentworth. Quit interrupting me, man.
Yeah, no more chocolate.
Motion is made that if we do not approve the grant money, that the estimate by Mahoney's Plumbing and Heating of $99,265.78 will be dead in the water. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Holt. Any discussion? Don't say it. No, not you either. Yes, sir.
No, just, if we don't get the grant, we don't do it, and the whole thing could
And
probably.
we put signs up.
No, the whole thing could be solved by putting, hand sanitizer machines in there. After you
You've got to
wash
be
your hands, you're
electronic.
done.
You can't do pump.
Highs or lows?
So that's gonna be automatic then?
I'll pull the board. Mr. Holt.
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle.
Yes.
Mr. Whitman.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald. Mr. Wentworth. Vote to the affirmative.
Thank
I
you.
want to be a no vote for once tonight, because two of us are doing it.
So the next item is in your binder, request for proposal, solar array, lease of town land for solar array. You remember the warrant article was approved in March for the capped landfill. You wanted a draft of an RFP. This is it.
Town attorney looked at this 2 minutes.
Yes, yes.
Did he give you a letter that he signed off on?
No, he didn't give me a letter.
Well, we should just have a sign.
I can get that for you from him.
That would be lovely if you
I
could.
think
He was in agreement with it, he had no
Yeah.
issues?
No. Checked it over thoroughly, all the DES stuff is in there. This is, I borrowed this from another municipality that's much larger than we are.
Here's a question.
Yes, sir.
I kind of read it over.
Kind of read it over or just read it?
Well, I kind of, a lot of humble jumble in there, like, typical, but I don't understand how this works. They want to put solar generation at a facility. I tried to find it in here. What do we receive? out of
Oh,
that?
they'll pay us for putting it there.
Oh, no, they're gonna give us a flat fee.
Well, if this goes in, there are 2 streams of revenue that will come to the town and go into the general fund. One is a lease of the land.
Side,
Yeah, I understand.
And then the second is a pilot program, PILOT.
Yes.
Pilot payment in lieu of taxes. So the pilot money would come to the town as well.
So we would have to set the fees, the rent of the land later, or?
There would be negotiated fees of in lieu of taxes of pilot.
Everything's negotiated, but
Okay.
this has to go out first, see what we get for proposals from different companies.
Okay. We'll be negotiating the rent and the possible pilot
Well,
fees.
the land value, they would at least have to pay the property taxes of the land value and rent from the town, if I'm not mistaken.
well, no, that was part of the pilot program.
Right, it was $10,000.
In lieu of taxes.
For a
In
year.
lieu of the
In
tax.
lieu of taxes for their equipment. But the town property by state law, I don't know how this works, but it's like when we run out down at the bay, the Shibley's, they have to pay taxes on that land. That's part of their contract, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a law, yeah.
So, best thing to do is put this out. Remember, a year ago, you had a company come in and make us a proposal. It wasn't right just to offer it to one company, that it should go up to a spec to offer it to several companies, and this is what Liz has done. She's just done this together. That's why there's no mention of monies in there, what it will be, but it'll be a pilot program and also in lieu of taxes.
I think too, is we should, engineer we use for the wells up there, I forget his name.
He's involved, John.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
So in case we're gonna have to put a well or something in, that he's
Yeah.
on top of this.
Yep.
That's pretty well spelled out.
The superintendent is involved. I have had so many people look at this before it came to you, to
And
me.
she will get a letter from the town attorney signing off on it.
But this is the first step to go out to ask for proposals.
Good job.
That's good,
Thank you.
that's good.
Excuse me?
It's a good job.
Can you write that down?
Yeah, but in the,
I'll take it back in a minute.
No, it's good.
I'm just curious what are we gonna get back?
Two streams of revenue, that's
Plus
it.
electricity.
2 streams of revenue, that's it.
We get 2 streams of revenue plus electricity for the dump.
and the site is not really usable.
Oh, no.
And so this is a good use of non-usable land.
That's
And I remember you were here actually at the Selectmen's meeting last winter or last fall when the company came in, one particular company came in and explained it all and everything. And
We had asked all these questions then.
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with the project, other
It's
than.
just that.
I wanna know what we're gonna get out of this.
We change revenue, but you don't know what that revenue's gonna be until the request of proposals come back.
Yeah.
Till we get into it with it and stuff.
Same as some of the other projects in town.
But they'll be giving us that information on these proposals?
Oh, they'll be coming right in and sitting with us for a while.
You'll be able to sit down and arm
Wait a minute now.
Yeah, because they're gonna bring their proposal in, then they come in.
We're gonna be getting, you're going out for proposals.
RFPs, yes,
Yeah.
request for proposals.
for a solar array on a concave landfill.
Yep. But are they gonna come back with what they're gonna financially,
But they will offer us.
Yes.
in the proposals? Are they gonna give us that?
Yes.
I'm asking the town administrator.
All right, he wants you to answer them.
Yes, they're quick. Now, normally, the pilot portion of it is done after the fact. Once the array has been, or the company has been approved, the pilot is the last thing that is done. So I doubt that we will receive a pilot proposal on the project proposal. Usually the project gets approved first, the lease portion of it. I haven't looked at this in about a week and a half, so quite frankly, with everything going on, I don't remember exactly if that.
Recently, we had other people applying the same way with information on how they were gonna do things and what it was gonna cost them.
Yeah, and
Turn the air conditioner on.
that one's a power purchase agreement. The power purchase agreement is handled a little bit differently from a lease and pilot.
Talking about.
When do you get the thermometer?
Yeah, this one.
Break it.
All right, gentlemen, anything else? Do I have approval on this, or do you want another week to decide and look at it?
This is a standard pilot and lease. Now, remember, lease and pilot, that's what it is, lease and pilot. It's not a PPA, which is a power purchase agreement, which is on private land with a middleman. We're not doing that. This is government property with a lease and a pilot.
So there is a difference.
Yes, and anything that they do submit money-wise, everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable once you pick the company. If the pilot,
Negotiate with us, and the selectmen, we take them to the cleaners.
With any luck, we don't leave money on the table.
Gentlemen, do I have a motion to approve the request for proposals?
Motion that we allow Liz to send out the proposals for the solar farm at the Bird Hill.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. McDonald to approve the request for proposal lease of town land for solar array. Second by Mr. Whitman. Any further discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. LaRochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman? Yes, votes in the affirmative. Good luck to you, young lady.
yeah.
That's, you sure? Positive. Okay, come on. All right, gentlemen, we're gonna move on to the minutes of June 8th, 2020 regular meeting and June 8th, 2020 non-public.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of June 8th.
Minutes of June 8th, 2020 regular session. Second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. LaRochelle?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes, votes in the affirmative. Approval of June 8th, 2020 non-public minutes. Madam Administrator, do you have something you want to add to this?
Yes, the selectmen need to make a motion to seal these minutes.
Make a motion that we seal the June 8th, 2020 non-public minutes 1 and 2.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. McDonald to seal the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 non-public session 1 and 2. Second by Mr. Whitman. Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes, votes in the affirmative. Motion to approve the minutes now as sealed.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion been made by Reuben Wentworth to approve the minutes of the non-public sessions sealed as voted upon. Second by Mr. Holt. I'll poll the board. Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth? Yes. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Opposed, vote to the affirmative.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda you have at your seat, gentlemen. Need a motion to approve the consent agenda, number one, assessing department, number 1 and 2, and also 3, town clerk, tax collector department, unlicensed dog owner. Mr. McDonald?
On number 2, that's all done, rescinded and everything now, right? Or do we gotta rescind it now?
Approving the consent agenda will rescind the May 18th approval, and it will table that form.
Yes, sir. So it should not be brought up again.
Okay, that's why I'm checking.
And you all, at the last meeting, you all asked for an opinion from the,
Attorney? Yeah.
anyways, you have it at your seat.
But we got the conservation attorney, the town attorney, who both are against that.
No.
Yeah.
All right, if this is something that has to be talked to non-public, then we'll have to table this issue again.
No, I don't have to talk about it, but I'm just saying, we got opinions from a one-side attorney.
What's the pleasure, gentlemen? Move this consent agenda as submitted. 1 and 2 on assessing department, and 3 on town clerk, tax collector department, unlicensed dog warrant. Do I have a second? Second. Motion made by Reuben Wentworth to approve the consent agenda as submitted June 15th, 2020, number 1 and 2, assessing department, number 3, town clerk, tax collector department, unlicensed dog warrant. Second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt? Yes. Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
No.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth, yes. Votes affirmative, 4 for affirmative and 1 against. This time, gentlemen, discretionary action on request for appointments, no discussion, majority vote required to allow or not to allow appointment. There is being none. There is no non-public session tonight. I will entertain a motion for adjournment at 8:06.
A motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion made by Paul Rochelle to adjourn at 8:06, second by Mr. Whitman. Any discussion? Being none, I'll poll the board. Mr. Holt?
Yes.
Whitman? Yes. Mr. Rochelle?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald? Yes. Voted for the affirmative. We stand adjourned at 8:06.
Yeah, Bill?